Welcome back, everyone, ready to dive in. We've got our work cut out for us today. This source material for a successful voyage, the captain must be strong. It's, well, let's just say it's packed with insights.
Definitely dense, but that's what makes it so rich, right? Like a treasure map with layers to unfold.
Exactly. So we're mapping out a course through three major themes, kind of like our own voyage, you could say. Atma-vichara, which is all about self-inquiry.
Right looking inward.
Then there's satsanga, surrounding ourselves with, well, the good, but we'll get into the nuances of that.
It's more than just good vibes, that's for sure.
For sure. And finally, Lukika, how our actions play out in the world. But the cool thing is, this source gives us an easy mode to start with.
Easy mode, I like the sound of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
But don't let the name fool you. It's about building that solid foundation.
Yeah.
And it all begins with the captain of the ship, right? That's you, by the way, dear listener. And this easy mode for self-inquiry, or Atmavichara, it lays out 8 steps, like interconnected steps. Think of them as, I don't know, limbs working together to keep things moving smoothly.
Makes sense.
So step 1 is this daily karma check-in.
Yeah.
And before anyone starts picturing scoreboards and cosmic judges, it's not about that at all.
Right, no one's getting graded here.
Exactly. It's about becoming this manasakshi. Okay, fancy word, I know. But it basically means becoming an observer of your own actions, the good, the bad, well, you get the picture.
So being mindful of our choices throughout the day.
Yeah. Like, did you pack that healthy lunch, or did you cave to the siren song of the vending machine?
Happens to the best of us.
Totally. It's not about judgment. It's about honesty. And over time, this daily reflection, it reveals your karmic balance, according to the source. And it's not about keeping score, but understanding the cause and effect of our actions. And that leads us right into the classic battle, intellect versus mind. We've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely. That little voice saying, just one more cookie.
Right. Or hitting that snooze button when you know you should be getting up.
Yeah.
It's that constant tug of war between what we want right now and what's actually good for us in the long run. And this source doesn't sugarcoat it. It says the intellect needs to win that war for real growth to happen.
It's not easy, though, is it? Winning that war within ourselves.
Not at all, which is where discipline comes in, and that's step 3. Habits and discipline. And this source, it gives this great analogy. It says setting your alarm for 5 a.m., that's a habit, but actually getting out of bed when it goes off, that's discipline.
I feel that in my soul, intention versus action, right?
Exactly. And it's the same with those big life choices. That's step 4, important decisions and karmas in life. Picking a career path, that's like charting your course, but the real journey begins when you start living that choice every single day. Your actions have to line up with your goals.
It's about aligning your daily life with your bigger vision.
Yes. Okay, now get ready for this next one because it might throw some people off. Step 5 is deity worship. Now, before anyone tunes out, the source isn't saying you have to follow a specific religion or anything. It's about recognizing something larger than yourself.
Humility, right.
Yeah.
Stepping outside of our own ego.
Exactly. And it's crucial in the context of self-inquiry. Keeps us from getting too caught up in ourselves, you know?
Absolutely. It's grounding to remember we're part of something bigger.
And that brings us to step 6, which is where that discipline we're talking about really comes in handy. Spiritual practices, sadhana.
Okay, so not necessarily about becoming a monk and living in a cave, right?
Right. Though, hey, if that's your thing, more power to you. But the source is talking about finding practices that resonate with you, whatever deepens your connection to that something bigger.
Building on that foundation we've been laying, step by step.
Precisely. And then, step 7, get ready for some honesty, self-inquiry, personality evaluation. Time to get real with ourselves about our strengths and weaknesses.
A compassionate self-audit, if you will.
I like that. And finally, step 8. This one always throws me a bit. It's the cycle repeats.
Sounds like we're back at square one.
Right. But it's not a flat circle, more like an upward spiral. Each time you go through these steps, you're building on what you've learned before.
Each rotation taking you deeper. It's a journey, not a destination.
That's it. So even though it's called easy mode, it's not about checking boxes. It's a continuous process of growth. So we've got our inner captain, all disciplined and self-aware. But even the best captain needs a good crew, right? That's where satsanga comes in.
Ah, yes. The art of association with the good. And let me tell you, the source doesn't hold back on the importance of this one.
It's not just about finding people you like, is it? There's more to it.
Way more. It breaks down relationships into 2 main types. persistent relationships and transactional relationships.
Okay, so persistent relationships, those are the big ones, right? Family, close friends.
Exactly. The people we're emotionally invested in, the ones who really shape our journey.
And those relationships, they impact us on a deep level, not just like our mood, but even our karmic path, according to this source. Makes you think twice about who you let into that inner circle.
It's a two-way street, though, isn't it? We influence them, they influence us. It's a shared journey.
Definitely. So then, what about these transactional relationships? It sounds a bit impersonal, like doing business or something.
I know, right? But the source makes it clear these interactions, they're essential too. It's about duty, cooperation, but without that deep emotional bond. Think colleagues, acquaintances.
The barista who makes your latte every morning.
Precisely. Those small interactions, they add up. They create the fabric of our daily lives.
It's interesting, though, because when the source talks about sannyasa or renunciation, it kind of flips the script on us.
How so?
Well, we often think of renunciation as, I don't know, giving up all our possessions, becoming a hermit. But here it talks about transforming those persistent relationships, those close bonds, into acts of selfless service.
So it's not about pushing people away, it's about shifting our motivation. Detachment from ego, not necessarily from people.
Exactly. Are we acting out of genuine love and care? Or are we trying to get something out of the relationship? It's a good question to ask ourselves.
It makes you think about where our true loyalty lies, doesn't it? To the material world or to something more.
Deep stuff. And then the source gets even more specific, outlining 3 groups within this association with the good.
Laid on me.
Okay, first, there's your satsanga closest group. Your ride or dies, basically.
Hmm.
The ones who understand your spiritual journey, who support you, challenge you.
They've got your back, but they're not afraid to call you out when you're slipping. Tough love.
The best kind.
Uh,
Then you've got your all-weather friends. These are the ones who are there through thick and thin, reliable, supportive.
Your rocks, your constants, they might not be on the same spiritual wavelength, but they're there for you no matter what.
Exactly. And then this last one is interesting. It's the people who will come when push comes to shove.
Oh, I like that. I know exactly what you mean.
Right. It's those unexpected sources of support, those people who show up just when you need them most. And it reminds us, even when it feels like we're alone, we're not. There's always someone out there. So we've covered the internal, the Atmavichara, the importance of surrounding ourselves with good company, the satsanga. Now it's time to see how it all plays out in the real world, right?
Time for some Lukika. Bring it on.
All right, so Lukika, this is all about the third-person perspective. How do our actions impact the world around us? What kind of ripples are we creating?
Cause and effect on a larger scale.
Right. The source compares it to throwing a pebble in a pond. Those ripples, they don't just disappear, they spread out, affecting everything they touch. And our actions are like that. They have consequences for ourselves and for others. What we do matters.
Our inner world shaping the outer world and vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where our karma and our phala come into play. Our likes and dislikes, our strengths, our flaws, they all influence our actions, which then shape our phala, the results, the fruits of our efforts. And that phala, it can manifest in so many ways, our possessions, our relationships, even our impact on the world around us. It's all connected. And as we're exploring this idea of Lukika, the impact of our actions, the source circles back to daily karmas, that first step in our self-inquiry easy mode.
Full circle.
Right. It's like this constant reminder that it's not enough to just think about these things. We have to actually do something. It's in those daily choices, those seemingly small actions, that we shape our reality.
It's about being mindful, but also taking responsibility. Our choices have ripple effects.
Exactly. Each day is like a new opportunity, right? To make choices that align with our values, to
Yep.
create those positive ripples. And speaking of time, the source brings up this interesting concept of soft deadlines.
Soft deadlines. Sounds intriguing.
Right. It's like, yeah, sure, your karma kind of resets every day, midnight strikes, new you. But within that day, there's only so much time to actually do the things, to, make those good choices.
It's like a reminder that time is precious. Don't wait till the last minute to start living intentionally.
Totally. And this whole framework, it ties into what the source calls, and I love this, AI perspectives.
AI perspectives? No, I'm really curious.
So the source, it kind of challenges this idea that efficiency and optimization, that's the be-all and end-all of a good life.
Interesting. So it's not just about maximizing output, it's about something more.
Exactly. Like a lot of AI models, they're all about maximizing impact, right? But this source, it reminds us that our desires, our artha and kama, Those aren't inherently bad things.
Right, wanting things, having goals, that's part of being human.
It's about pursuing them ethically, making sure they align with our values, and that they're contributing to a good life, not just a productive one. And this ties into another point where the source kind of pushes back against AI perspectives, the role of deity worship in self-inquiry.
Okay, this is where things could get a little tricky. I'm all ears, though.
Right. Because at first glance, it does seem counterintuitive, right? Like we're all about self-improvement. Why spend time on something bigger than ourselves?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Self-inquiry without humility, it can easily turn into, I don't know, spiritual egotism.
I see what you mean. We become so focused on our own progress, we lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yes. And that's where surrendering to something larger than ourselves, whether it's through prayer, meditation, whatever resonates, it can really help. It brings that humility back, reminds us we're not the center of the universe.
Right, we're all part of something much grander.
And it ties back to that earlier idea of transforming our relationships into selfless service. It's not just about me, it's about us. And that brings us to the final point, and it's a big one. The source calls it worship beyond the physical.
Okay, I'm ready.
So it uses the example of nature, Prakriti. And it says, it's not the trees, the mountains, the physical forms that we should be worshiping, but the consciousness that animates them.
So it's about seeing beyond the surface, finding the divine spark within all of creation.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the source challenges us to take this beyond nature. How can we look beyond the material, beyond the superficial, in all areas of our lives, our relationships, our work, even our struggles?
Finding the sacred in the everyday.
Yes. So as we wrap up this deep dive into for a successful voyage, the captain must be strong, it's clear this isn't a quick checklist, it's a lifelong journey.
A continuous process of self-discovery and growth.
Exactly. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves, not in isolation, but in connection with the world around us. And that, my friends, is a journey worth taking. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.